Like, I don't get it. See, and now it's episode 59, This Life in Tech. I'm Jason.
And I'm Dan.
So it seems like you would think starting a broadcast, particularly when you're on the same system all the time, would be predictable and how long it takes once you hit start broadcast for it to go live. Dude, it's worse than it used to be. For a while there, it was somewhat consistent. Like, I could count and be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and let's go. And now it's whatever, man. Oh my God, dude. So I wanted to talk about like paperwork processes, and I feel that there's a large difference between when you're trying to create versus when you want to run something that has been created that is stable, and in terms of who you want to do that and their personalities. But before we get there, I have a question for you.
All right.
Because, off and on, you and I have had these long conversations about having kids. And like, there's really nothing that I've ever seen or read or talked to anybody about that really prepares you for it. And this is one of the things that keeps getting me.
You've never run a help desk then.
What's that?
You've never run a help desk.
No, I got the fuck away from that as fast as I could, man.
If you're in technology and you want to know what it's like to have kids, if you're trying to prepare, then run a help desk.
Well, so like, I have this operational idea that getting a puppy and actually training the dog and all that stuff really prepared me, at least intellectually, for some of the steps, like the developmental steps, right?
All right.
But this is the next thing, man, is how often does everybody get sick? This is ridiculous, man. So it seems like, especially when your kid's like active and out and running around and doing stuff, and she goes to school, and so she's sick. Like, when I say sick, I don't mean like puking her guts out sick. I mean, like, there's always like some low level cold running around.
Oh yeah, sure.
And it seems like it's like every other week, right? And I'm sure it's less than that. Maybe it's like once every month and a half. But then once in a while, I'll get it, or Marcia will get it. Like, Marcia has it now. She woke up today, and we were actually going to go see Pete, and I had to text that guy and be like, "Sorry, man." Yeah.
Probably just as well you didn't.
I don't know, man. I like the guy. You know what I mean? But I'm like, Jesus Christ, how often do people get sick? And then I started thinking about it. Well, like, why do you get sick? It's because nobody washes their damn hands.
Isn't that the truth?
Like, that should be advice number 1 in the How to Be a Responsible Parent book. Make sure your kid washes their hands all the time. I don't mean the crap bacterial gel shit that people wipe on that's basically just jellified rubbing alcohol. No, I mean actually washing your hands.
Well, you actually, so the Purell is like a stopgap, right? There's nothing in the Purell that actually binds to your hands, because soap, it's not so much that it's cleaning it as in terms of like disinfecting. It's actually binding anything that's on your hands at the chemical level. And it then when you use the water, it all just comes off.
Right.
Then Purell is used to disinfect.
Yes. Well, I could go on and on about this shit, man, but it's just a little observation I've had, like, especially now that she's getting older and she's more active and she does more stuff, and like, we go do more stuff around more people. Like, you dirty savages, man. Dirty savages. So anyway, man, that's what got me thinking about processes. So, I don't know. This is what I think, man. I think not only do you have to be careful when you're running an organization of being aware of personalities, who's conservative, so they're probably good at running something once it's set up, versus who's creative, that's not good at running shit, but they're really good at creating stuff. And like, one personality needs strict rules and processes, the conservative people, and they're the ones that want to create those anyway, because that's what they do. And in my opinion, the creative people not only don't want it, but it's counterproductive to try and force them into it. What do you think?
Duh. I mean, there's very few people that at least that I've come across, that are able to do both. I can be an operator for only so long before I have to pass that off, because if I'm not thinking about what's next, like, how are we going to get out of this solar system in, however many millions of years, I get bored. I get bored with the mundane process of do this every Monday at 9:15 a.m. Can't do it. And that's how I feel about compliance. And there's a couple of people out there that are like, yeah, compliance makes you more secure. No, no, I don't think compliance does. What compliance is there for are for people that need a checkbox that says on Monday at 9:15, every Monday at 9:15, thou shall send the TPS report.
Right. I mean, it's a snapshot of time and place that allows you to attest to a control. And I'm not saying that that's lacking purpose. It has purpose, but it's almost antithetical to innovation. Because in innovation, innovating itself is the success criteria or the measure of effectiveness, if you want to put it that way. That's what I would argue.
Well, the purpose is because those people can't do the real creative work.
Well, look, man. So this is well, in a lot. I agree with you too. At the same,
somewhat joking.
Well, no, I think you're right, because at the same time, creative people can't run shit very well for the reasons you just said. I totally agree with you. So this is the other thing that dawned on me. So I got tired of playing my paladin, and I started picking up my priest again. I haven't played a priest in World of Warcraft in a long time. And that's a support class. I mean, man, even the damage is fuck shadow. You're a support class. So I started thinking about, well, you know, conservative personality types in an organization are support roles. You know, even if you have a CFO that's conservative, which they probably should be, especially when like the company's stable and you're not necessarily.
I'm not trying to get over that you ever would play a paladin.
Why?
I just can't see you being a paladin.
Hell yeah, man. An agent of the light.
Maybe.
What's that? What?
A Death Knight, maybe.
Well, yeah, I got one of those too, man. And I got a monk and I got a shaman and so forth and so on.
Shaman is really what you are.
Oh, it's always been one of my favorite classes until they took away Earthshield. Fucking bastards.
And were you a dwarf shaman or a gnome shaman?
No, fucking, what are you talking about, man? Orc. There's only one true shaman.
No, why can't you be what is it? The bull looking character.
Tauren?
Yeah, you can be a Tauren shaman.
Oh, I dig Tauren druids.
Yeah.
But anyway, man. So when you're healing, you're a support class. You're there to support the rest of the team and what it is whatever they're doing, right?
Right.
And so I'm on this priest and I'm healing these raids, and I started thinking about, well, you know, what would happen if I just stopped healing and I started DPSing, or God forbid I tried the tank? Well, you would fail, because that's not your role, and the role you're in can't perform those other functions, at least not very well for very long.
Right, sure.
Right. So then I started thinking about, well, you know, these conservative personality types are necessary. I'm not discounting their value, but what they create in terms of rules and processes and paperwork should be meant to support the business. And when they try to step outside of that, it becomes a hindrance, not a support. So like, here's an example. If I'm in a support role, why would I email somebody to create, let's say, a rule? No, I'm in the support role. So I should create the rule and then facilitate it being followed, not telling people that they have to follow it, or even worse, in my opinion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Even worse, in my opinion, is, hey, I don't know what rule there should be, so I want you to create it. I'm going to put the burden on you. And then after you create it, then I don't know what you do with it. File it. I mean, I don't get it. It's like the value of a support role is completely underestimated. And at the same time, it's filled with incompetent people. That's my opinion.
You know, that's what it is with a lot of it. I mean, people want to, you know, do things that they just aren't meant to do. I mean, that's just, everyone wants to be in some way, shape, or form that rock star, that the hero of the game, and they forget that the hero may have been the one that took the final shot in the basketball game or hockey, or they hit the home run, or they struck him out, but there was all these other people around you. And the team can't win if you're all not able to do your role. And I find that in a lot of things. I mean, when we take a look at any particular, you know, we were talking about this, you know, last week. I think that everyone in technology should be taking all different types of training, so you know what you should not do. Not everyone's a hunter. Not everyone's a farmer.
Right. Well, I mean,
not everyone's a priest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's optimizing your ability to create truth of being in some way, right? So whether you're in a support role or a rock star role or whatever role you're in, we're all bonded toward, we should be. I mean, if you're in a good enterprise culture, we should all be bonded by a vision of some kind, right? This is where we're at, and this is where we want to be, and this is the time scale we want to do that over.
Right.
Or within. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, we just bombed Syria. Think about the logistics that went into that, of getting all the right pieces into the right place. It seems trivial, but it's not. And if any one of those support roles, even down to the cook, isn't on point when a cook needs to be on point, then we've seen what happens.
Yeah, but doesn't it always look easy when you're sitting on the sidelines to the people, because the people actually know what they're doing?
Well, I think everything seems easy when all you have is the ability to look at things simplistically, which is, I think, a problem we have in mainstream media. Everything's distilled down to these 140 character sound bites, so to speak.
Well, it's like 200 some characters now, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I still restrict myself because I'm a good priest.
Living by the rules. Conformist.
Right? So how do I don't know, man. I don't know how to put myself in that mind frame of, like, I understand it. I see where it's valuable, but when you're, as a culture, as an enterprise culture, still at a stage of we're not even close to understanding where we're at, let alone where we want to be in that time frame. Rules don't build empires, man.
We have, rules are only there to be able to punish someone when they weren't followed. All right. I mean, we all know it's not morally right to murder someone. We all know it's not morally right to take something that's not yours. The rule is there in order to be able to punish.
Yeah, well, right. And
pure and simple.
Right. And that's what a rule does, right? It establishes some type of, let's say, conditional boundary, right?
Yeah.
And so that way, if you're on one side of the boundary, then you're right. And if you're on the other side of the boundary, you're wrong. And to me, that seems completely antithetical to innovation, because innovation, to me, by definition, should be destroying and surpassing boundaries.
Well, we always want to push the limits. We're not pushing the limits, we're not going to grow as a species.
That's right.
Let alone as professionals or whatever it is that you choose to do. Try to be a DPS priest in World of Warcraft.
This is why I play Discipline, because it's like a nice mix of both. You're healing through damage, but you don't do like the best of either. Although, listen, man, I top the fucking meters. Don't kid yourself. Oh man, that was like riding a bike, getting back on that. Bam. But anyway, yeah, that got me thinking about it. Like, well, because okay, so like governance, and you and I both have done governance. I did a hell of a lot of PCI DSS, and I did a hell of a lot of Sarbanes-Oxley.
Explains a lot about you.
Yeah, it does, man. And I didn't. Okay, so I never. This is what I mean, right? And you're right. It does explain a lot. Like, I'm totally comfortable innovating the control structures themselves, but Jesus Christ, don't have me fill out the paperwork, man. That's death. Like,
dude, I have a hard enough time filling out an expense report.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to do it.
That's to get my money back.
Yeah. There's been times where I'm like, that's not enough money. I'm not doing it. Fuck it. I'll just eat it.
And it takes like 30 seconds. I even have all of my receipts emailed to me, or I take a picture of them. So it's not like I got to go hunt down the receipt. I just literally have an apprehension to doing paperwork.
Yeah.
What else could I be doing in that 3 minutes?
A lot more that's important to me than paperwork. I'll tell you that.
That's 180 seconds that I'll never get back by doing that piece of paperwork.
Right.
This is why I sometimes I'm just like, I don't care about those, those Marriott points. I'll let someone else take them so I don't have to fill out the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. Rules don't build empires, man. That's kind of the mantra I've been thinking about. But I think on the other hand, rules run empires. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you don't use you don't follow the rule to expand. And I think this is a big misconception. I mean, all right, I don't really know what's going on directly in Syria, whether or not it's, whatever the media is, reporting is true, false, whatever. It's not like the media is honest in their reporting. But the thing that big misconception is the president has to go to Congress to have war. They can do whatever they want for 3 days. They just can't continue after that. And people forget about that little caveat. They just want to go to the one piece. Well, guess why that one piece is in there? Because once those bombs are dropped, Congress can't say no because you're going to be attacked and they're going to have to enable it. I mean, the rule is there to make the people feel good. Come on, once those first shots are fired, when they're fired back, you think Congress is going to say no? Don't pull out?
No. Well, and look, man, we've had much longer engagements than this that weren't congressionally approved and defined acts of war. That's why we define them as conflicts.
Yeah, because we're playing with words. We're playing with the rule says X. Come on, we all go outside of the rule book. The rule book is there for those people that have to follow rules. They need a checkbox. I am not someone that can live by a checkbox.
No. And like you're saying, I mean, I understand the value of it, and I applaud the people, and I'm glad they have the opportunity to follow checklists if that's what they want. But I don't understand the blanket assumption from a support personnel that everybody should check those boxes. No. Let's break this down.
Yeah.
Let's break this down. And so it's like the news reporting on Syria, which is why I brought it up. Not only is it timely, but I think it's a great example. If you look at, let's say, the Twitter sphere, there's a massive lack of understanding of not only military history, just the U.S. military history. And then, for instance, the difference between a declaration of war and a conflict, but also a massive misunderstanding of human behavior. I mean, if you listen, Twitterverse, if you don't think there's true evil in the world, you're a fucking idiot and you're naive and you need to wake up. Look, I'm not going to condone the killing of anybody, but holy shit, man. when nerve gas is getting deployed, you kind of have a responsibility to step in and be like, nope.
You think we have a responsibility?
Yeah, sure we do.
Why do you think that?
Because, well, I think it for several reasons, and I'll simplify it for us so we can unpack it. I think we're in a unique position to not only protect our own interests, which of course there are interests there. Let's not kid ourselves. But more to the point. What's that?
What are our interests in Syria?
Well, Syria is a proxy for that region, though, man. I don't think Syria itself represents an end state. It's a stepping stone towards. Yeah.
It's a way to fight Russia without engaging in Russia.
Well, right. And that's the broader conflict for a lot of the pipelines and so forth across, well, all the way from Kazakhstan to Syria. I mean, that whole region is transport or logistics. Let's call it logistically important. But anyway, more importantly, I think we have a duty to our species as a superpower to extract maximum order from all the chaos. And when there's a regime that is killing its own people, ostensibly, yeah, man, why not?
I go back and forth with it, to be honest. I sometimes go under the aspect of it's not our fight. Why get involved?
Well, I would agree with you if the first point weren't true. If there were no logistically important strategic value out of proxying against China and Russia and Syria, then I would agree. I mean, because we sure as fuck don't really get directly involved in Africa.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, because we don't need those resources as much yet, and yeah, we are still getting them to the degree we need them.
Well, because we haven't yet decided to use our own, and so we want to continue getting those resources from Syria. I mean, there's just as much of those resources in Africa when we start talking about natural gas and things of that nature. But as long as the other resources are more easily refinable and usable, that's why we're there. I just kind of go, I go back and forth because I think that in some ways it would be nice to go ahead and fix the issues that we've got here first, because our education system sucks at this particular point overall. And maybe we would stop having this overall society of I get a trophy also. I get a participation trophy. Let's correct some of those things and get us back to what made the country a superpower in the first place, which was literally busting butt. Knuckles are bleeding because we're in there, we're manufacturing, we're creating, and we have a can't die mentality to now a mentality of, well, I did my best. I got a trophy.
Well, I got the same trophy as the people that did actually win. That I think more to the point, that's the problem. And that's what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. Look, man, I don't disagree. But clearly we have strategically important interests in that region. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Is the gassing of your own people an excuse to roll our tanks in, so to speak? Not that we are, but
I don't know. We drop bombs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason why we have that kind of force projection.
Yeah, we're not looking to have our own people die.
No, that's why this is. By the way, for the record, I find it silly that these people put their name on a petition that we shouldn't arm artificial intelligence. Why? Are you comfortable letting human beings die? Because I'm not. I'm perfectly fine arming autonomous systems.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that part either. I mean, I think there's a big difference when we talk about, and this is probably in some ways why I feel like I'm a dinosaur in this aspect. The back in the day, somewhat medieval time, maybe even colonial, the general, the king stood at the front of the empire. I'm going to take you out, Alexander the Great. Today, the leader sits back at some cushy chair, well far away from conflict. I am still the type of person that's like, put me on the front line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's different leadership, and I think you and I agree that that's our preferred mode or modality. Maybe is a better word. But yeah, man, I mean, no, and I think we do have a duty too. What's interesting is how you deploy that duty, because, like I was saying, we don't deploy that duty as much to places like Africa, where there's at least as much, if not more, genocide.
Oh my God, there's a ton. I mean, when we talk about the atrocities that are going on in the world in general, I mean, Africa, they're doing all these same things, but it doesn't make the money. We don't need the interest today. Don't think that I believe that we have plenty of covert operations going on in Africa.
Yeah, sure we do.
To plant the seeds for when we need it. Right now in Syria, I'm conflicted whenever we're engaged in a foreign war. I look at why did Syria gas their own people? I have no idea.
That seems to be a common theme in that region to some degree too, man. There's like a lot of regimes that gas their own people historically. Like I don't know, man. That part of the world's completely foreign to me.
Yeah, I mean, so is West Virginia at this matter. But
well, yeah.
It's one of those things that kind of bothers me when we get involved. There may be atrocities going on, but I mean, there's atrocities everywhere. I don't know that we can be everywhere. Have we spread ourselves too thin as a country?
Well, and particularly at what cost? I mean, because certainly, if nothing else, there's opportunity cost.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a very complicated situation for sure. It's not well, and that's what I was kind of getting at. Maybe was I've seen some reporting, let's call it, and I use that term loosely in this case, that these missiles cost X amount of dollars times how many were used, and you could have given Flint, Michigan water. Well, yeah, if it was just a simple matter of how much money to spend, but that's not representative of reality. And I'm not suggesting that Flint, Michigan shouldn't have clean water, but to suggest that, what's that?
They do now.
What do you? How's that?
So the EPA reports came in, I don't know, a week or two ago. Flint, Michigan water is now within the compliance guidelines.
Yeah,
drinkable water.
Right. Jesus, here we go with rules again, man. Well, this is the other problem with rules too, is an overabundance of rules are actually just a benefit to low performers, insofar as they figure out how to manipulate them to their own benefit rather than actually performing. Rules never benefit high performers. I really believe that, man. I don't think I can't think of a single rule that in any way, shape, or form, and unless your rule is leave all the low performers alone so they can perform. I mean, leave all the high performers alone so they can perform. If that's your rule, I'll agree with it. But otherwise,
no one's going to agree to that.
Of course not.
Society in general. I mean, this goes right back to, you know, my example I go to all the time. Being from Maryland, we never had to put a lid on a crab pot. As soon as you try to escape, all the other crabs are going to pull you right back down.
Yeah.
So no one, or I'll use your common phrase, the uncreative always want to attack the creative.
Well, yeah, they want to offload that burden because they can't bear it themselves, or at least they don't believe they're capable of it, which I'm not convinced is necessarily true. You know, what's that?
Not just that, they don't want you to be creative.
That's right. No, and that's why they put the burden of whatever it is on you to keep you from being creative. Exactly. Well, you see this in doctoral students, right? I mean, we'll be both at the school next weekend. By the way, next Saturday, we'll do a special cast. Woohoo! Oh, by the way, man, I think I've decided I'm just not even going to engage in any of that shit. Anyway, that's another conversation another time. I forgot to say that before we started. But look, man, not everybody's cut out to be a doctor of any kind. It's a hard journey and it's a hard life in terms of, you know, the burden or weight you have to bear and the challenges you have to overcome. And the notion that those types of complicated issues are solved through a simple question of how do you do this? Man, I don't know. How do you? And more importantly, how do you find out how to do it? Maybe that's where you should start. That escapes so many people. I think it's really telling when you dig into the psychology of it. You know what I mean? And understanding human motivation and behavior.
Every student that I've come across going for a doctorate first believes that it is nothing more than another grad paper that they've got to do. They don't understand that you're trying to identify a real problem that's timely, and you are going to have to provide some type of original thought into this. Not everyone is creative. Not everyone is capable of such feats and don't need to be. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. There's a reason why few people are leaders and many people are followers. You know, I knew and this is probably the other part that people don't understand. So back when I was doing it, there wasn't even enough research because the rules that were in place wouldn't even allow me to finish when I could have finished, because we have the rules that said you need what is it, 80 sources or something like that?
Yeah,
I don't know, some number of sources. There was nothing going on yet in true research in the mobile security field at the time. So it didn't matter if I had great work; there was nothing there. So I couldn't do it.
Right. Well, you know, apart from let's say an arbitrary rule like the number of references, because it's arbitrary. You could just as easily pick 40 as 60 instead of 50. You know what I mean? It's arbitrary. It represents something, but I think it misrepresents what it intends to represent. And here's why. And this is what I love about science. Science is a systematic way of approaching problem solving, right? And that systematic process is rule-based. You know, there's rules and there's attributes and characteristics that are either defined through rules or discoverable through rules, whatever. And I happen to be of the opinion that science, as a systematic process of rules, or the application of those rules, maybe, is a great support system because it doesn't get in the way of being creative and innovative. It supports it directly, and it gives you the framework to do all that, but it doesn't hinder you in that endeavor in any way, shape, or form. As long as you understand what those rules are.
I don't care what the rules are. That's just people, like, oh, well, you don't quite understand X. I don't need to understand X in order to accomplish Y necessarily, especially when it comes to technology. I mean, people told me, hey, you don't understand how terrestrial radio works. I don't need to, but I definitely designed XM radio. Dude, you don't know how government works. Dude, you don't know how malware works. Dude, you don't know how software engineering works. Dude, you can't build an Android phone to make it the most secure out there and put together a program in which you're going to release vulnerability patches within 72 hours. Dude, you don't know, banking. Yep, you're right.
Right. Well, so this points to the difference of type, or a difference in kind between rules. I find support rules like science itself to be positive space defining rules.
Yeah.
Right. The rules create a boundary in which there's a positive area in which you can be productive. And then there's the rules like you can't do that because of reason A, B, and C, which to me are negative space rules. They define the area in which you shouldn't ever go. Well, come on, man. I mean, first of all, why? And who says so? And third of all, which is maybe the first one, why the fuck do you think it even applies to me? Who are you, peasant? You know what I mean? To tell me what I can do or not do. And isn't that just the spirit of innovation and pioneering anyway, which is to go where you shouldn't or where nobody's gone before?
It's the way it always is, man. They gotta do something.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
It makes it easier for them to tell you what you can't do because they couldn't do it.
Well, where's let's go back to training, which we talked about not too long ago. Where's the training that allows people to identify each other's personalities so that we actually can work together in meaningful ways instead of having these constant tug of war battles over silly arbitrary rules?
Rules are there to protect those that can't do for themselves.
Yeah, well, sure. I dig that. They're liability instruments.
Yeah. It's I constantly go back to we'll say the lowest common denominator of people. We all know what we're supposed to do. But it's so much easier if someone else just does it for you. I don't have to think for myself. I kind of go back that, maybe, I don't know how long ago we talked about this, where maybe there should be an actual just minimum salary we just give people. Forget welfare. It's just, here's what you do. It doesn't mean you're going to go live in the best place or anything like that, but you want to just, here's an area. Here you go. You get X amount. And then let the creative go off and do what's necessary to keep advancing society. Probably cheap.
Well, man, it was a long time ago we talked about this, maybe a year ago even. The idea that, and I do think there's a lot to this. I think there's merit to this idea. How you actually implement it, well, people have been experimenting with it for the last couple of years. But, the idea is that by guaranteeing that minimum needs are met, collectively we should be freed up to ascend up that developmental hierarchy, right? So that, if I don't have to worry about how I'm paying rent or how I'm going to eat in the near future, then that cognitive energy can be dedicated towards something higher up that scale. Creativity is a prime one.
Sure.
And this is the thing you see with automation too. Obviously, automation is going to be a big deal for society. It has been before, like with the auto industry. Well, I mean, we're still here. Those companies maybe not be, but as a species, we're here. We're thriving.
Yeah, and I don't mistake this aspect of this minimum wage type theory, and I don't mean minimum wage like you're going to make $8 an hour. I think that aspect is ludicrous. I don't think increasing the compensation, if you're good, people will. I've never worked for minimum wage ever. Because if you're good, people are going to pay you what you're worth, or at least at that time. And no one is actually making what they probably believe they're worth. You're worth what someone's willing to pay you.
Right.
So, but if we got down to that aspect, it doesn't mean you get to go and wear, Gucci or have the best things. No, you're not doing anything except surviving.
Right.
So, here you go. Every Monday you get to eat steak, and on Friday you're eating fish.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
this is what's being delivered to your house at this particular time for your meals for the day, the week, whatever. You want better? Go be creative.
you know, and systematically, man, I'm personally willing to make less money as long as I can have less rules. The more you leave me alone, the less you have to pay me.
No, no, not for me.
Well, because
I'm a straight up hired gun. I mean, it's I will go to whoever pays me the most money with the right opportunity. I'm
sure,
not. I can't. I don't know. There's enough. You couldn't pay me to go and just be an operator. Tell you that. It just can't. I couldn't do it. But it's got to.
right.
I don't know what company at this point is not in some type of transition period. Because guess what? If you're not transitioning to something else, then you're going to be like BlackBerry was in the mobile industry.
Yeah, or the other.
Or Nokia,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Palm OS. I mean,
right.
you name it. Novell, Betamax.
Well, right. I remember the Trio.
Huh?
Remember the Trio?
Oh my, yeah,
Trio?
Palm Trio. Yeah.
That thing was awesome, man. It was like the first real like hint of what we were gonna have.
Yeah.
And then they just completely pissed their advantage away in the marketplace. Completely shit on it. Right. So I mean, that's just the nature of reality at this point. If you're not constantly looking at the next year, year and a half, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, right? I mean, you're immediately behind if you're not thinking about it, let alone doing something about it.
If you're
All right.
not,
So
yeah, if you're not
how do you
looking at what's 3 years from now, forget it. At least 3 years.
right? And you don't do that by creating a bunch of nonsense rules. Once you have stability, I think you need rules to support that stability and to protect it or assure it. But those don't apply to the next iteration or the next cycle of innovation. That's separate.
Yeah. I wonder when Steve Jobs really was serious about making an iPhone.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Like what I don't understand the history of that. I've never looked into it, but I wonder what for him as a designer led to that epiphany of, oh man, this is what this shit should be like.
Because back before the iPhone, mobile devices couldn't receive communication. That's why BlackBerry existed, because what happened is they could only go outbound. And so they created that tunnel back to the BlackBerry Knox. And then the BlackBerry Knox, because of that tunnel, would push stuff through a tunnel that was already created. Before that, nothing else was not permitted. Apple broke the rules. They convinced AT&T to break the rules.
Yeah.
This goes more to the point. Apple, because Apple at the time, they weren't Fortune 5.
No, man, they were constantly battling death.
Yep, until that iPhone hit. And so, look at the magic Steve Jobs had to make, essentially, in some way or another, to convince the carriers. And they were all bidding for it. AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile. AT&T got it. And that picked AT&T's network up pretty quickly. They DOSed themselves. They DOSed themselves with the iPhone.
And think about the strategical vision of not only are we going to have these suite of devices, because iPods were still popular back then, right? But we also have the software ecosystem to drive demand to consume the hardware through iTunes and 99-cent songs. Think about breaking the rules there.
Oh, dude, and I had that BlackBerry Storm.
Jesus.
I hated that device.
I got one to try, and I wanted to throw it out the window of the train the same day.
Yeah. So then I went and got that iPhone 3GS. Mm-hmm. That was my first iPhone, the 3GS.
Me too.
I actually liked it. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple iPhones here and there, but I'm just an Android guy. It's what I like. It's what I do.
I'm ever increasingly closer to just completely switching
back to Android.
Yeah.
I'm not a Samsung fan. I wouldn't go Samsung.
No, I wouldn't either. Like I loved the OnePlus.
Yeah, the OnePlus isn't bad. I just go straight, I like the LG that I have because they basically haven't done anything to it, or just go back to the Pixel, which was the Nexus.
That's probably what I would do. I found those really good too.
I don't want all the other stuff on there.
What's that?
I don't want all of the other
Oh Jesus, yeah, the
stuff
system apps that you can't get rid of, like Facebook.
or Lookout.
Yeah.
I still have not come to this. You know, this is just it's mind-boggling to me why anyone puts something like Lookout on your phone. Okay, are you buying apps from third-party app stores? The answer is no. Google's scanning their app store constantly, and they're finding things. I think, what is it, 10 malicious apps a year they find? Out of how many? And you're going to go spend basically, hey, you know, instead of putting money towards Lookout, just give me the money. You'll have better use by watching our show than you will of spending that $30 or whatever it is towards Lookout.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, you know, and here's the thing, man. I would have zero issue switching phones. The one thing that still ties me somewhat to Apple is I think the tablet is superior. I don't think that's going to last much longer.
You think Apple's tablet is superior to what?
To anything else I've ever used.
To the Surface Pro?
In some ways, yeah. Yeah.
The Pixel Book?
I haven't tried that yet. That one's tempting, man.
They're
That
all
one's tempting.
So here's the thing. This is what's funny to me. Let's see. I got this MacBook right here. Is it coming into the pit play? There we go. Woo.
There you go.
Here's the Surface Book. This is like just what's on my desk. Here's the new MacBook Pro, all in black, with a black case on it. Here is a couple of generations old MacBook Pro. That's just what's on my desk right here. Also, I've got 2 Mac Minis, custom build machine, and my Alienware from like 2015 or 16. Still pumping away. You know, I've got the Pixel Book upstairs. I've got Surface Pro, Surface Pro 4. I probably have another MacBook somewhere. Who knows? My point in all this is that I change systems like people change their clothes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. Even on one of my Mac Minis, that one, it's running Ubuntu on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was too much of a pain in the butt to run Arch Death Star.
Dude, I got that shit running on a Raspberry Pi because I need a little web server for some development work I'm doing.
Arch or?
Yeah, Arch on a Raspberry Pi. Do you know how difficult it is to get a fucking static IP address on that Ethernet interface? It's absurdly difficult. Absurdly difficult for no apparent reason other than it's just they decided to make it difficult. Fuck it.
Yep. Now, here's the other thing. So, all right. And this is straight Ubuntu. Worked no problem. No problem. Lubuntu, Xubuntu, Debian, Arch, 3 different flavors of Arch. None of them worked. Ubuntu, I didn't have to do anything. Straight Ubuntu. Boom. Worked. I got rid of all the stuff I didn't want out of it because it's a little bit older of a Mac Mini, and I'm doing it for final exams coming up. You got some, I'm running and in that because it's only got 8 gigs of RAM for this particular Mac Mini, but I'm running Ubuntu, VMware Workstation because VMware Workstation on Linux is much better than running it on Windows. So got that. I'm running 2 Windows 2012 servers and another Ubuntu virtual instance because I got the domain controller going on. Just basically everything is pointing back to that for authentication.
Yeah.
So this way, because they have to do a VPN, they got to do some SSH. I've got them doing OpenVPN. They got to decrypt some stuff, PGP rolling in there for how, because I basically give them a riddle and they got to find their way through the maze. All of that on this little tiny Mac Mini, 8 gigs of RAM, and it's not even sweating.
No.
I enjoy Arch for the aspect of it's, if you were doing a regular build box, it'll work as long as it's like modern and then you understand every little component. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. Which is why it's just running Ubuntu.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, especially, you know, I mean, think about this, dude. This is crazy. I only have in total 8 more Saturdays in California. That's it, counting yesterday. Now, I'm not going to be here for several of those because I'm going to be in Maryland. But, you know, as a family unit, we only have 8 more Saturdays here. So as I'm looking forward to how I'm going to set up my office in North Carolina, I continually think about how can I just minimize everything to the point where I can just be productive and create things. That's all I want to do. I don't want the distraction of which OS am I on? Is it updated? Can it run this app? Can it access this data? It's all bullshit distraction.
Amazon, AWS.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then if I'm offloading all that, then why do I need any horsepower here other than maybe I want to play some World of Warcraft?
That's it. That's all you need.
Right.
You just need your rig to play World of Warcraft, your entire lab, and go AWS.
Yeah.
And, you know, that might be what I wind up doing at some point.
Well, I haven't looked at it for a while, but I don't think that the price differential is really going to be that much.
No, I mean, when all my systems start dying, I'm not buying any new ones.
No.
I have no longer have a need. I don't have the desire. I'll buy my rig when I decide to play games.
Right.
That's about it. So,
see, breaking the rules, man.
Yep.
Oh, man. I think that's it for me, man. That was a good one.
Yeah, I'm digging it. So we're going to have a live session next week. We got to get someone to, we'll have to put that up on just our YouTube channel, just to put it up there. The intro.
I don't know, man. You know, I think about it and I've got the routine in my head. Then I just start thinking to myself, well, it's like you said it earlier. If it's going to take me 5 minutes to cut this promo, is that 5 minutes I'd rather spend doing something else? I don't know. I'm not convinced yet. We may still do it. We may still do it.
Yeah, you know, whichever. What's going to be funny is that the whole reason why you should do it, at least to me, is the amount of people that are going to hate on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really the only reason.
Well, you know what it really comes down to for me is how much do I need to entertain myself? Because I don't give a shit about entertaining anybody else necessarily. But how much do I need a good laugh? And probably by that point I will.
Well, and that's basically the way I do everything at this point. Is am I entertained?
Right.
If I'm entertained, then that's exactly the reason why I basically do everything. It's just for my own entertainment at this point.
Right. So yeah, we'll have episode 60. Well, we'll actually be in the same location. We haven't done one of those since I think when we were at Black Phone in your office.
Yeah, I remember the last time we did one live.
I think that was it when we were in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, episode 60 will be live from Maryland. We'll be together in the same room, or at least in close proximity.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely be able to do that. I could bring my portable camera so we could get it, you know, we could put it out there.
Cool.
Yep. Awesome.
All right, everybody. Have a good week.
In the bag.
Set your goals, conquer them. Talk to you later. Bye.
Peace.